Welcome to the Badlands National Park. This park has over 240,000 acres of grassland, canyons, and buttes. It's in southwestern South Dakota. It's divided into three main sections: the North Unit, Stronghold Unit, also called the South Unit, and the Palmer Creek Unit. The two southern units are in the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, which was closed to us in the summer of 2021 due to COVID-19 restrictions. So we're only going to be able to show you areas accessible to the Badlands Loop Road and the Sage Creek Rim Road in the North Unit in this video. The Badlands Loop is 39 miles long. We will be going from east to west, so you exit Highway I-90 at exit 131 at the little town of Cactus Flat. In parts, the speed limit is 25 miles per hour, and in other parts it is a little higher, so it might take you an hour if you drive straight through from Cactus Flat to Wall. But don't do that. Take your time and get out of the car so you can see the scenic wonders and experience the beauty of the Badlands up close. Stop and smell the thistles, I always say. Just after passing through the northeast entrance, there is a pull-off into the Big Badlands overlook. You can stop there if you want, but if you go just a couple more miles, you get to another lot where you really should stop. There is a bathroom here, and it's a great place to get out and get your first real experience of the Badlands. You can get to 4 different trails from this parking lot. The door trail and the window trail both start off as boardwalks. They are relatively short, but you can go off trail here. Just beware of hazards such as rattlesnakes and prickly pears. Take lots of water if you go during the summer months. The Notch Trail, which is at the far end of the lot, is very interesting because it has a ladder that you can climb. The Castle Trail, which is the longest maintained trail in the park, has its trailhead just across the street. The Badland features are due to differential erosion that began 500,000 years ago. Some parts get washed downstream while other parts resist weathering and erosion for a while longer. The canyons offer a cross-sectional view of the various sedimentary layers. Because the sediments in each layer came from different events and are made of different materials, the result is a banded appearance that can be quite breathtaking. After leaving this area, you go down the Badlands Wall through Cedar Pass, and about 2 miles away is the Ben Rifle Visitor Center and the park headquarters. The Visitor Center is a great place to stop. When you walk in, on your left is a gift shop and bookstore. Just to your right is a ranger station where you can get all kinds of good information. And around that corner to the right, there are restrooms, a water bottle filling station, and this really neat little room where technicians are working on some of the fossil finds. You can actually watch them at work as they uncover some of the material off of the fossils. The displays in the Visitor Center are very informative. They show you some of the fossils and talk about some of the animal life that used to be here, but they also discuss the indigenous human life here. So they talk about the Lakota and then about the European settlers that came afterwards. Right next to the Visitor Center, just a field away, is the Cedar Pass Lodge. The lodge has a small restaurant and a great gift shop where you can buy souvenirs, local arts and crafts, and even camping and hiking gear. The lodge also has about 15 modern cabins renovated in 2013. The cabin interiors and furniture are made of lodgepole pine, and they come with a mini fridge, microwave, and television. They also have porches with Adirondack-type chairs, and they rent for about $200 per night. There's also a nearby campground where you can park your RV or set up a tent. The lodge is open from about late April to late October. We're going to leave the Cedar Pass Lodge and Visitor Center area here and head west. The The Badlands wall is made of bands of siltstones and sandstones here that are mixed with volcanic ash. This is the Brule Formation. The sediments here were laid down 30 to 34 million years ago. Fossils of mammals from over 150 genera have been discovered in this formation. About 2 miles west of the Visitor Center, you come to the Saddle Pass Trailhead. This is one of several passes that you see in the park. A pass is simply basically a landslide area where people were able to get their animals or wagons up and down the wall. This particular one is very steep. It's relatively short, but it's not something that you should try unless you're in very good shape and willing to get just a little bit dirty, because you're probably going to be sliding down on your butt. A few miles further along, the road climbs up the wall through the Norbeck Pass, and about 5 miles from the Visitor Center, you reach the Fossil Exhibit Trail. There's ample parking and some bathroom facilities here. The Fossil Exhibit Trail itself is a relatively short boardwalk with information stations. If you have children interested in fossils, this might be an interesting stop, but you can get much of the same information in the shade from the Visitor Center exhibits. Personally, we went across the street to the west trailhead of the Castle Trail. This trail is just over 5 miles long and there is no shade, so you are fully exposed to the elements. It was about 88 degrees with less than 40% humidity on the day that we hiked, so I urge you to take plenty of water if you go in the summer months. You walk through the prairie and into part of the rim of the Badlands where you can see some formations that resemble castle ramparts. We hiked for about a mile and then turned around. A couple of miles away, you go past the White River Valley overlook and then up to Panorama Point, which was beautiful. You're now in the Bigfoot Pass area. This is interesting geologically speaking because now you are going down into an older section called the Chadron Formation. The Chadron Formation sediments were laid down in a river floodplain between 34 and 37 million years ago. Fossils here include things like alligators and titanoteres, which were something like a rhinoceros crossed with a horse. If you stop at the Prairie Wind Overlook nearby, it's a boardwalk that goes out into the mixed grass prairie. The park is mostly surrounded by Buffalo Gap National Grassland. There are more than 60 types of grasses here. The dominant type is western wheatgrass. There are some benches here along the boardwalk, so this might be a good place to take a quiet break and contemplate your place in the universe. There are several more overlooks as you make your way along the wall. Around one big curve, you get to Dillon Pass where the road goes back down the wall, and here, below the Chadron Formation, are the Yellow Mounds. Uplift associated with the formation of the Black Hills and the Rocky Mountains exposed former ocean muds to the air, forming yellow-colored soils. A little lower is the Pier Shell, the oldest rocks in the area. These shells were formed between 69 and 75 million years ago when the area was covered by a warm, shallow sea. If you find fossils here, they would be of sea creatures like ammonites. There are no dinosaur fossils here because there was no dry land. Heading west again in about 3 miles from the Yellow Mounds, you go back up the wall to the Pinnacles Overlook. Now you are in the most interesting and scenic part of the North Unit, in my opinion. Here's where we saw bighorn sheep in abundance. Pinnacles is a great place to watch the sunset. The parking lot is very large and there are bathroom facilities. Just down the hill from the Pinnacles, Highway 240 heads toward the Pinnacles entrance of the park and the interstate and town of Wall, which is about 8 or 9 miles to the north. Rather than go that way, take a left along the Sage Creek Rim Road. This gravel road hugs the rim of the Wall for several miles and goes through a 64,000-acre designated wilderness area. This is where you can observe some of the best scenery and wildlife. About 5 miles down the Sage Creek Rim Road, you reach Roberts Prairie Dog Town. This is a great place to observe these interesting creatures. They're black-tailed prairie dogs. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands here living in this colony. The prairie dog is a very important species in grassland ecology. Their burrowing helps to aerate the soil and cycle nutrients. They feed primarily on grasses, but many predators feed on them in turn. They can hear very, very well, and they can also see very well, so they're very aware of you walking around their burrows. They're most active during the day, but you won't see them on very hot days, or on rainy or snowy days for that matter. The most interesting thing to me about prairie dogs is their language. Their whistles and chirps can actually communicate what sort of animal they're seeing and how fast it is approaching. We saw some evidence of recent fire in the area. Fire is a natural part of this ecosystem, often caused by lightning in the summer and fall. Fires release nutrients bound up in dead plant matter and also increase biodiversity. Like other national parks, I'm sure the Badlands have prescribed burns that they set intentionally in order to favor the grasses over unwanted species like the deciduous trees. If you continue along the Sage Creek Rim Road, you eventually reach the Sage Creek Campground. This is a first-come, first-served primitive campground with no water, but you do have ready access to the Sage Creek Wilderness area and a lot of wildlife and scenery. A little further along, you pass out of the park. If you stay on the widest gravel road, you eventually make your way to Highway 44, which can take you to Rapid City to the west, or if you take a left at the little town of Scenic, you can take Highway 589/27 south to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation and then reach the Stronghold unit of the Badlands. I hope you enjoy your visit as much as we did. Thanks for watching.